All right, so today, boys and girls, we want to we're going to talk a little bit about motion and tracking and how we use movement, how we program movement and also tracking or being aware of the other things that are happening in the game when it comes to game design and programming. So our objectives, we want to be able to use code blocks to program actors to move in specific directions. We want to use code blocks to solve a puzzle module. And we also want to be able to create a maze game. So we know one thing about a maze is that it has parameters or borders. And we have to be able to program our characters to move in relationship to those borders. So we'll talk a little bit today about the new code blocks that you'll use to be introduced to, and then we'll go through an example puzzle before you get started. So the puzzle that you'll be introduced to, or the code program that you'll be introduced today, is the if-then conditional. We call this a conditional. If something, whatever's within this little diamond shape, if that's true, then we're going to run the code inside of the whatever's inside of the block. So an example of this would be if a certain key is pressed, then the character or our actor goes through a certain set of movement. It may turn in a different direction. Anything to help our game to provide a certain sense of movement. This also would be a way to program if the actor bumps into something to make sure that he doesn't keep moving as if the wall was not present. Now we're going to transition over and check out a screencast while Coach Hicks walks you guys through an example puzzle. So today we're going to talk a little bit about lesson 4, which deals with motion and tracking in video games. So of course, this is a very basic but important skill in video games because our characters on the screen have to be able to move from one place to the other, as well as react to movement with the joystick or the keyboard or whatever your controller may be. Okay, we also wanted to be aware of things that are happening in the game. So for example, we don't want our characters to walk through walls. We want to create a very realistic game situation. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 levels within lesson 4 for you to complete, and we're going to go through one that's called Castle Maze. All right, now this one, some levels are examples, some will allow you to actually program. On this one, we are going to talk a little bit about, let's see, it's still loading. Okay. So you want to program the Valkyrie or our Viking to navigate the castle maze. All right. We want to get to the treasure and avoid the ghost to win. Okay. So we want to finish the code. All right. So here's when the left arrow is pressed, we want her to move to the left. So we have the left, right. So we need to finish whatever it is we want to, the arrows, the character to do when we press the up arrow and the down arrow. Okay. So we can use this code as our example. It's not going to let us copy and paste it because it wants you to get some, but you can use this as your guide. So you want it to point in the direction, the up arrow. So we want it to face 0 degrees. Okay. And you can use a little wheel as a guideline. Okay. We want it to move 10 pixels. Okay, I'll move that out there. Now we also want to make sure that, so the next costume means that the character looks like it's moving. So it'll be animated. Okay. And then we also want to put in this thing. So if it's touching anything, then it backs up. So we don't want it to walk. We don't want our characters to walk through walls. Okay. So then we want to drag in if touching. Anything. Okay. So if it runs into any solid object, it's going to bounce off and move -10. It'll back up. Okay. You can type that in. All right, and if it runs into the edge, we want it to bounce off. So similar to if you ran to the end of a space, you're not going to keep going, okay? And that needs to go at the end of our code. Move our screen down. Okay, so now let's see if they'll let us copy this. Okay, it's not. Alrighty. So then we need to drag this over again for the down arrow. We want it to point down, down, move 10 pixels. Now, I like to talk myself through it so I can remember we wanted to change costumes as it's moving. And then again, if it runs into any objects, so if it's touching anything, not the mouse pointer, we're going to bounce back 10, negative 10. And if it runs into the edge, we want to, oops, where did that go? Oh, I see it. Okay, so it's important. That's a good lesson. You want to make sure, because it does matter what order the blocks are in. Okay, so you want to make sure that everything is attached. Okay. And now we're done with that. We can go click that back, and now we can press our code. We notice that if we, now you're actually testing your game. Okay. Okay, so I won't go back to this. So you have to make sure that you play the game correctly as well. But the major thing is I wanted you guys to get an idea of how that code works. And you will go through a couple more puzzles like that throughout. There's a quiz at the end for you to take. So there's 6 things for you to complete in order to be done with lesson 4. All right. And again, if you guys have any questions, make sure that you guys call Coach. You can, not call, but email Coach Hicks. Let me know that you guys need to check in. We can do a live hangout if you want to share your screen with me, and I can walk you through, or we can tackle the problem via email. All right. Happy coding.